r/confession, episode 2. I broke a poor kid's glasses beyond recognition in middle school. In middle school my family wasn't the wealthiest, but there was a kid in a few of my classes that was one of the poorest. And he had terrible eyesight. Couldn't see a thing without glasses. Well, he lost them in a classroom once, and one of my friends found them on the floor in a corner. And being little asshole teenagers, we picked them up and destroyed them beyond recognition, and put them right back where they were. The teacher found them and confronted the class the next day, and I felt terrible. It's been a long time since that happened, but every time I think of it, some pretty bad guilt presses over me until I forget about it. I never apologized or admitted it was me, and now I don't even know his name anymore. I stole from my friend when I was 13 and got away with it. Hey guys, when I was 13 I had a major addiction to sugar. I needed to eat some sweets every day. So when my own money ran out, I did the worst thing possible. I stole from my friend to buy some. We were playing games on his PS4 when his younger brother brought my friend saving money. I and my friend's brother counted the money when no one was watching me closely. I slid 50 cents into my pocket, then another 50 and more. That day I stole €5. I know that is not that much, but back then it was quite a lot. I stole only 2 times in my life. This memory is really embedded, so hopefully some of you can help lift of some weight. Thanks for reading my story. Scammed people out of gifts on our world by lying about gems. In high school, my siblings, cousins, friends and I discovered a trick to convince people to gift us on a game called Our World. We would tell them that our parents were going to purchase us 600 gems, but so I could learn charity, I had to choose someone deserving on Our World to also be gifted 600 gems. I would tell the victims that I would choose them, but in exchange I needed them to gift me something. I would then send them a message saying something like, 600 gems have been added to your account for the price of $20. They should be processed shortly. Our World team. Then the person would gift me off of my wish list. I never thought of it as a bad thing due to the fact that it was internet gems. Eventually I realized how some kids may have worked hard to get those gems or even spent their own money on them. But I kept doing it anyways as I was jealous of all my friends' accounts, and it was the only way I knew to get items. So if you were scammed on Our World 6 to 10 years ago, then I want to say sorry. I thought I was smart, but really I was a jerk. I had my classmates sew my work for me without them knowing it. Title edit * do not so. I went to a small university in which there were only so many professors in each department. This meant that I had the same professor for the majority of my core classes needed to graduate. This particular professor always set up their classes so that we had a lecture every day with an exam at the end of each chapter. This meant that the points for the class were made up entirely of the exams, as well as the very specific study guides that were due at the end of each exam. These study guides were basically all questions that could potentially be on the exam. About 50 questions on the study guide, but only 30 would be on the exam. For the study guides, classmates would tend to split the work in half and then trade answers so that they only needed to find half the answers and trade them for the other half of the answers. I had a habit of making friends with everyone in my department but sat by myself during the lectures. This made it easy for me to have several friends in each of my classes without anyone else knowing. During the lectures, I would usually watch football, soccer or play games on my laptop. When it came time after class to work on the study guide for homework, I would text a friend and ask them if they wanted to split the study guide, depending on which half of the questions they wanted to work on. I would text another friend and ask if they wanted to split the study guide in the opposite way. Then I would simply be the middleman and send each person the other's answers. I.e. person A does questions 1 to 25 while I do 26 to 50. Person B does questions 26 to 50 while I do 1 to 25. Then I send each the other's work. After that, it was as simple as studying the guide for the upcoming exam. I did this for 3 years without anyone knowing. I stole the eraser beads off all the pencils in 4th grade. Back in grade 4, I hated my math teacher. She was always mean, and I had gotten in trouble for cheating on a test a couple months prior to this. Anyway, I had a pencil with a nice pink eraser on the end which was brand new out of the box. So what did I do? I picked the damn thing off. So now I had a pencil with no eraser. I looked toward the pencil cups and saw some nice eraser tops. So I took one and put it on my pencil since the one it was originally on was not sharp enough. I kept this up for about a week until the teacher said something about it. She said to find the eraser thief and return them all. There were a lot of normally suspicious kids that were checked every day to see if they had their erasers. I was known as the shy and quiet kid, so no one really cared to check me. The common theory was that a little kid from 2nd grade came and ate them all. I do not know why, but I was the only one who knew. I emptied all the erasers into my sock they were at home, so there was no way of knowing where they were anymore. Fast forward to the end of 5th grade. Some kid from that class mentioned the erasers being gone, and people just laughed it off because no one cared anymore. So I spoke up and said that I stole them, and a few people did not believe me. I told them that I took them all home and they would never see them again. So for the last week of 5th grade, I was known as Eraserhead. I insulted a pedestrian whilst driving by in a car. Earlier today I was leaving my university accommodation for home and my friend was giving me a lift to the train station. On the way, we passed a well-built guy of about my age walking on the pavement by the road. That moment, for a reason I can't understand, I cowardly decided to shout "Skip leg day" out the window. This may seem trivial, but this could have really hurt this guy's feelings. He clearly took care of his body and was in better shape than I may ever be. Maybe this was just jealousy on my part. I really don't know. I fear that I have caused a cascade of emotions in this man's mind and my personal insult has stuck with this guy. I have been thinking about this all day and know there is nothing I can do to apologize to this young man. Being young myself, I know how confidence is linked to self-esteem, and I feel so disgusted with myself for doing something that could have knocked this man's self-worth. I paid my sister do my schoolwork so I could pass my course. Call me lazy, but I think it was a tactical solution. At the age of 16 I left school, did a year of 6th form. 17, realized I hated it and got myself a job. Problem was, here in the UK you can't legally leave school until you turn 18, so I had to find some school course to do on the side. I took a business course which I found fit in quite nicely with the line of work I was in. I found it really difficult to manage school work at the same time, and seeing as I left school to get out of doing any more schoolwork, I came up with the perfect solution. Pay my younger sister to do it for me. She didn't have a job and was desperate for money, so it was a win-win situation. Fast forward to 18. When I finished the course, I got the results from the course and passed with flying colors. And I've only got my sister to thank. Never told anyone. Never will. I stole dozens of books from my high school's library. I'm not the kind of person that actively reads books. At some point I'll find a book that interests me, but never devote the time to finishing it. This makes book reading a foreign thing to me. As well as that, I'm able to afford most of anything I want. and my parents often reassure me that they'd pay for anything I need, giving me no reason to steal. But I still did. My obsession with book stealing began around the end of my junior year of high school. Even though I'd never read the books I checked out, I hated the 2-week limit we had for the books we borrowed. Even if I could just recheck out the same book again, it didn't sit right with me. I wanted the book. I didn't want a time limit. I wanted to pick up that book whenever I wanted, if I was ever going to in the future, and read it for as long as it was going to take me. At first, this began as a simple, "Oh, here's a book I like. I'll put it in my backpack and just bring it back when I'm done." But it quickly escalated into a vivid obsession. I'd anticipate cleaning out my bag, just to go to the library the next day and stuff as many books as I was able into my backpack. I can't remember if I told many of my friends about it, but the obsession only worsened as time passed. At some points, I would even come in daily to take a book, although being warned by one of the few friends that knew about my habit. I only began to make weekly trips to get books, rather than daily. The maximum amount of books I took in a day were 9. Skip forwards to my senior year. My best friend C was growing concerned with my habit, and often tried to gently usher me to return the books. She was very gentle about it, and insisted that I could take as much time as I needed to return them. But I didn't want to. I'd feel conflicted, and it'd just pull in my gut and make me feel nervous. Around this time, too, I began dating my other best friend, now ex. She, too, was eager for me to return the books I had stolen. Although rather than a more gentle approach, she was more disappointed and upset with me. Which, to this day, I don't blame her for. She'd explained to me that I was taking books other students wouldn't have the opportunity to read. Yet all I cared for was the simple satisfaction I gained from actively stealing them. As time went on, I began to confess to my therapist about my frequent library visits. He described to me that a likely reason I was stealing was because the rush of excitement I gained was almost like an addiction for me, and that stealing more and more was what kept me exhilarated. Even despite the encouragement and support from my friends, my therapist, and my ex-girlfriend, I still found myself unable to budge. I was stubborn, and I didn't want to let go what I now had claimed was mine. Time skip again to around the middle of senior year. The book fair had rolled around, and knowing me, I was incredibly excited for its arrival. While I was a child, I had always found myself ogling at the many books, erasers, bookmarks, and other silly little toys that would be sold on the wonderful week that was the book fair. Initially, I hadn't planned on stealing anything from it to begin with, although that same addicting spark within me began to grow thinking about the possibility of being caught. And I immediately went all in. Somehow, I had managed to steal over $70 worth of merchandise from right under the librarian's nose. I would have gotten away with it, until the guilt began to eat away at my train of thought, and my ex-girlfriend telling me how wrong I was for taking from them again. So, I called my mom and told her what I had done, and she came and paid for what I had stolen, and told me to never do it again. I don't remember much after this time, but I do know I was pushed to return just one book I had taken. I still have the many others I had stolen, and they now sit abandoned on my bookshelf. After my ex-girlfriend and I had split apart, we agreed to be friends, but we'd slowly fall out of that, too, as she still felt disappointed in my habits of stealing. C and I are still best friends, but I believe she's long forgotten about my notorious past. Sometimes when I think about it, I do feel bad, but not bad enough to return them. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more Reddit content.